thank you for purchasing this Leisure View video cassette. If you'd like more information, please send a stamped addressed envelope to this address telling us the title of this cassette and where you purchased it.
People are scared. And the response to that is, well, if people are scared, if they're afraid of what's going on in Lebanon, if they're afraid of what's going on in the economy, if they're afraid that, you know, the Russians are going to nuke us or we're going to nuke the Russians, why do we need this stuff? And the answer is because we have to have some kind of symbolic way to deal with our fears, or we can't, or if there's no conduit for those things, they'll simply pile up and explode.
In this episode, we visit the set of the notorious Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, where lunchtime is at 2 o'clock in the morning. Then we take a look at another Texas horror story, an example of modern film noir horror, Blood Simple.
You're my fave. Me and Bubba, my little brother, we listen to you every night. Music is my life. You know, you're my fave, but I get too embarrassed to phone in my request. It's too disembodied, you know. But now that we're here in flesh and blood, I could maybe make a request and it'd still count, huh? Humble pie! Rain, 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 rain. Music is my life.
Now in production at New Hall Ranch in Valencia, California, is the latest installment in the Leatherface saga. Director Jeff Burr is overseeing the deliberate mayhem that will be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Well, I don't know. It's my third one, and I don't know. We spend a lot of time bloody.
Okay, there's the chainsaw, of course, and then there's being nailed to a chair, stabbed, strangled, dragged, drowned, punched, those kind of things.
I think I can do without watching this.
Go this way a little before you get in.
All right, here we go, right away.
Got even to there.
Come on, guys, camera's up.
I flipped a car off of a cliff. We've had numerous fights. We had a guy on fire. We've had a couple other car crashes and a big fight in a pit full of bodies.
This film, I'm treated like an animal, so the average American gets to see what it's like to be stalked and actually treated like cattle. It's literally what we're treated like in this film, so I think it has a nice message to it, if you'd like to take it that way. If you're looking for a message, that's definitely it.
I don't think I ever imagined ever doing a horror film. I never imagined it, in fact, because I'm not a horror fan. I was a dancer for a while, and then I studied mime with Marcel Marceau in Paris. We have fake rocks and things that have to look heavy and that kind of thing. So I think that helped me a lot. The being dragged around and pushed down and knowing how to fall really helped me a lot, because I didn't want them to use a stunt woman too much, because it's not the same thing. And knowing how to fall enabled me to do a lot of my stunts and stuff.
Roll sound.
This sequel to the original cult classic is designed to hit with the same visceral impact. For the actors, it is a wrenching experience to create the malicious bloodletting that is vintage Texas Chainsaw. The parts are physically demanding, and much of the filming is done at night. The actors and crew form bonds, much like a family, during the demanding film schedule. Their collective efforts are with one goal in mind, to depict the gruesome exploits of a demented family, the Chainsaw family.
Horror films are, to me, one of the best genres because you can really do anything you want without fear of reprisal. And studios will be going, well, it's a horror film, yeah, I guess it's okay, you know, because no, very few people really understand the genre and respect the genre. And so it's kind of like a renegade filmmaking.
It was very disturbing at first, you know, I was very, oh, this is hideous. But then, you know, after a time, frighteningly enough, you know, it's funny.
The ugly visage of the hideous and powerful Leatherface takes painstaking work by the makeup department. The term Leatherface is appropriate for this killer who enjoys sporting the skin of his victims and hiding behind the mask of a corpse's hide.
The thing I learned from studying the weaponry was that in the ancient times, the warriors were one with their weapons, and so I've become one with my chainsaw. You know, I mean, I'm a perfectly normal guy, sort of, off camera, but, you know, once you get in front of the camera, you just, it's acting.
Ready. Okay.
Basically what we're doing, Leatherface wears a mask that he's constructed of body parts or people's faces from people that he's killed. And the mouth area and the eye area is left open, so because he's been skinned. So basically what we're simulating is skin that's been, obviously the eye area, the eyeball would fall out. If it didn't have eyelids in the lip, the mouth would not be there if it wasn't for the lip area. He was not skinned there. So what we do is we duplicate around the mouth, eye, and the eye area all the skin that's been peeled and dead. It's pretty much deteriorated. And we do it with latex, sheet latex, and little different things put in there to make it kind of strong.
This is the Leatherface manicure. This is real blood, R-E-E-L. But it rinses off really, really easily.
Right off of water.
Yeah. And we don't have any continuity problems then when he touches his wardrobe. He's been a busy boy, so he's pretty bloody at this point.
Yeah, that's why my shirt is all. You want more smoke out of the thing? He's got the thing right in his hand. Okay. Slightly when you do it. There you go. Thank you.
That
looks lovely. Ready? Last two?
Lunching, one half hour, please. That's lunch, one half hour.
Thank you.
How much murder and mayhem can the human mind take before one is driven blood simple? Blood Simple was written by two brothers, producer Ethan Cohen and director Joel Cohen. Their production met with plaudits as part art film, splatter film, murder film, and dark comedy film. The premise of this fine example of film noir is a murder, but a murder that takes plenty of turns for the bloody worst.
Let's do it outside, in nature.
When we sat down to write the story, I think that the actual story was an attempt to write that kind of story that you see in those old novels and put it in a kind of modern film noir context.
Joel and I are both interested in genre pictures and thrillers, and in general we're both big fans of sort of hard-boiled American fiction, sort of James M. Cain, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler type, usually private detective fiction.
Chandler is probably the funniest, has the best sense of humor, and Hammett is the most, I think, sort of the most interesting stylist in terms of writing. But Cain, I mean, Cain is sort of more of an influence on this, I think, if you want to like take it to that extent, just because we were after a story and a specific kind of story. He doesn't write mysteries, and Blood Simple's not a mystery. We didn't want to shoot the movie in black and white, which was kind of an obvious way to go with this type of story. But on the other hand, we wanted a fairly monochromatic, dark look to the picture. So what we decided to do was introduce as color elements in the frame. We wanted the color elements in the frame to be actual light sources as opposed to reflected light. That's why there's a lot of neon in the movie, blue bug lights, that sort of thing. So we could keep the frame fairly dark, but still have it be colorful in a way that was film noir in its feeling.
So, scene?
The twisting plot concerns a woman whose marriage crumbles after she begins an affair with an employee of her boorish husband. The cuckolded husband hires a disreputable detective to kill his wife and her boyfriend. But the detective has his own agenda and tries a double cross.
Nah, I trust you.
Cohen says a thread through the whole movie is the ever-deepening mess the male protagonist makes, such as trying to clean up blood from the murder with a non-absorbent windbreaker. And what follows is one of the longest set pieces in horror cinema, an agonizingly prolonged effort to dispose of a corpse.
We came up with the idea of the main character coming and discovering the body and thinking that his lover has killed him, having to dispose of the body. We like taking a character that ordinarily would never kill anyone and put him in a situation where he mistakenly thinks that he doesn't have any choice, and then just sort of see him work himself out of that hole.
It's also an interesting sequence in that both of the characters in the middle sequence are beyond talking to each other at that point. There's no dialogue for about 20 minutes of the movie, and yet there's sort of continuing action and continuing story.
The character has this dilemma about actually how to kill the person, and finding each of the alternatives he attempts to repugnant and ultimately killing the person in the worst possible way.
I'll be here with you till 6 this morning when Mike Miller will be stepping in. He really had a dig for.
stuff, the worst thing about all this stuff is you sit and this sort of nasty grin surfaces on your face. People say, have you ever scared yourself? And once in a while I say, yeah, but mostly you just think about these things and you think, this is really great. Yeah, Marquis de Sade time.
And radiation.
What's wrong with the pure enjoyment of a good scare or a good gross element? Here are the most elaborate invitations to enjoy just that with the ingenious previews created by well-known and lesser-known horror show creators.
My idea about the audience is that you want to take them and say, hey, I'm your friend. Now come around the corner because I want to show you something and I think you'll really like it. And you get them around the corner in the dark where they can't get away, and then you do a number on them. That's all. But they like it. Mostly. They come back.
As far as marketing, all they really have to do, as far as I'm concerned, is put an ad in the paper and run a trailer on TV, and I'll be there. I'll go.
Trailers are great. I mean, I love 50s trailers because, you know, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. You ever seen the trailer for that? It's great. I mean, they're great stuff. They're great stuff. They're an intensification very often of what's in the picture, and it has to be said, very often all the best bits of the picture get put in the trailer.
Once a normal, voluptuously beautiful woman, she drove into a nightmare of horror and saw descending from the sky a titanic monster whose fearsome touch became a frightful curse. What she saw was beyond belief until others, too, faced its hideous, uncontrollable menace. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, incredibly huge, with incredible desires for love and vengeance.
Below a certain level of excellence, a film needs to offer a little extra something to attract viewers to the box office. In this area of promotion, horror films have always been ingenious.
The curse of the mummy's tomb and the Gorgon. He said the Gorgon, both in petrifying color, you know. They will frighten you. Yeah.
How can you protect yourself from the forces of evil? Now, disguise yourself from the menace of Rasputin, the Mad Monarch.
You will apologize for laughing at me.
It was traditional for horror shows to come bearing gifts for the audience, whether in the form of plastic coins, magic seeds, insurance policies, or even this preposterous souvenir.
Your only hope is to get your free Rasputin beard as you enter the theater to see Rasputin, the Mad Monk.
Audience participation was a concept pioneered by the makers of horror films. Here, a fright break was promised to viewers of Homicidal.
For the first time in screen history, a special interval will be provided during the running of this picture for refunding your admission. If you're unable to stand the almost unbearable suspense, the almost paralyzing shock of Homicidal.
The producer, William Castle, had other tricks up his sleeve, always announced in his previews.
For years, I have searched for a unique way whereby a motion picture audience can actually decide the climax of a picture. I have found such a way. My latest picture, Mr. Sardonicus, offers something no audience has ever had before: the power to determine the fate of a character on the screen. The power to punish.
Mr. Sardonicus. His deeds form the fabric of nightmares.
When you come to see Mr. Sardonicus, you will receive a ballot like this. At a certain point in the picture, you will vote thumbs up or thumbs down. His punishment will depend on the result of your vote.
Ironically, the audience always voted thumbs down. But then William Castle never did produce a thumbs-up version of the ending. He knew it would never be demanded. As if to punish the audience for their thirst for blood, Castle created The Tingler and announced his most famous movie gimmick. It involved the most direct form of audience participation imaginable and required $100,000 insurance on each audience member. Very simply, seats in the theater were wired, and at key points in the film, viewers got mild electric shocks. Today's previews carry on the tradition, especially at the low end of production. Troma Films, a leader of grade Z movies, are instantly recognized through their previews. Their fans want horror, and we asked why.
It's part of life. It is life. Life is horrible. You get born, they beat you in the behind, they put you in a cold scale, then people die all around you. You wonder whether you're going to have enough food. The tax man comes, the rent is due. Life is horrible. I mean, right? I mean, there are a lot of nice things, too, but generally, it's pretty scary.
Meet little Melvin. He's a 90-pound weakling. Everyone hated Melvin.
I'm gonna take this mop and shove it down your throat.
They teased him.
I want to do it with you. Okay.
They taunted him. They tormented him until he had a horrifying accident and fell into a vat of nuclear waste, transforming little Melvin into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Melvin became the Toxic Avenger, the first superhero born out of nuclear waste.
In terms of subject matter, we get a lot of it out of the newspapers. The environmental problem was Toxic Avenger. The class of Nukem High dealt with the nuclear power plant.
Welcome to Tromaville High, an average American high school, with one exception. It's located only 1 mile away from a nuclear power plant. They said it was 100% safe. But they were wrong.
There's no danger, Governor. We have the situation well in hand.
Welcome to the class of Nukem High. Yes, at Nukem High, strange things are happening. The Honor Society has changed from a group of clean-cut preppies into a vicious gang of cretins.
We're the youth of today.
The class of Nukem High, where you'll learn the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and radiation. See the most explosive action of the year.
We have a certain vision of life. We're interested in small-town America, typical American life. And our movies reflect our view of the American life as we see it.
The most mysterious, inexplicable, and incredible events often take place in the most ordinary places. Usually, these seemingly unexplainable occurrences are eventually explained, but every so often, they remain mysteriously incredible.
Monster in the closet.
The President declares national emergency.
Yes, it was something so hideous. So gruesome. So frightful. That it could only dwell in one place. A monster in the closet. It's coming out.
We do have one foot in fairly interesting themes, so that there's a little bit to chew on when you see a Troma movie. At least I believe so.
Sometime in the near future, a major earthquake will lay waste to the entire California coastline. From out of the rubble will rise a menace far more terrifying than the death and destruction. Surf Nazis. Welcome to California, where the beaches have become battlefields and the waves are a war zone. Only one person can ensure that surf Nazis must die. She's tough.
I want to buy a gun. Taste some of Mama's home cooking.
See the film that is creating a tidal wave of action all over the world. See Surf Nazis Must Die.
Horror movies have been accused of everything, including pushing people to commit murder. But this is a welcome marketing opportunity for horror filmmakers. Consider this statement by Dr. William Bryan.
In 1960, I was consulted regarding a tragic case of a triple murderer who strangled his victims immediately after viewing the movie Psycho. His fascinating analysis under hypnosis, now a matter of record in my book, came to the attention of the producers of Dementia 13, who asked me to devise a method of preventing a recurrence of this tragedy.
You will now take the test prepared by Dr. Bryan to determine your ability to withstand shock. One wrong answer could mean you are a threat to your community. Have you ever spoken aloud to yourself in a mirror? Were you ever involved in what passed for an accident, but which you purposely caused? Did you ever do anything seriously wrong for which you felt absolutely no guilt? True or false? Death by drowning in a pond is best described as exciting. True or false? The most effective way of settling a dispute is with one quick stroke of the axe to your adversary's head.
I think we've all faced this at one time or another. There were supposedly copycat murders after Psycho. My view about this sort of thing when it happens is that the people who did it should not only be put in jail for having committed crimes, but should be sued for plagiarism. The fact is, a crazy person is going to do crazy things, and it may be that he'll get the idea to do those crazy things from a film like Taxi Driver or Carrie or Salem's Lot or Christine or some other thing. But I don't believe that either a creative artist or a society of people who appreciate art can be penalized for the few crazy people that are riding along the fringes of the herd.
If Psycho pushed someone to murder, the unindicted co-conspirator was Alfred Hitchcock. He was not only a master of terror, but also a master at drawing large crowds.
I've suggested that Psycho be seen from the beginning. In fact, this is more than a suggestion. It is required.
This requirement created captive audiences to Hitchcock's tape-recorded messages through loudspeakers before each show.
I insist that you do not tell your friends the little, tiny, horrifying secrets of Psycho after you see it.
The plan worked, but Hitchcock's effort had actually started months earlier in what was to become a classic preview.
In that window on the second floor, the single one in front, that's where the woman was first seen. Let's go inside. You see, even in daylight, this place still looks a bit sinister. Now, it was at the top of these stairs that the second murder took place. She came out of the door there and met the victim at the top. Of course, in a flash, there was the knife, and in no time, the victim tumbled and fell with a horrible crash. I think the back broke immediately and hit the floor. It's difficult to describe the way that the twisting of the well, I won't dwell upon it. Let's come upstairs. Of course, the victim, or should I say victims, hadn't any conception as to the type of people they would be confronted with in this house, especially the woman. She was the weirdest and the most... Well, let's go into her bedroom. Here's the woman's room, still beautifully preserved. And the imprint of her figure on the bed where she used to lay. I think some of her clothes are still in this wardrobe. The son's room, but we won't go in there because his favorite spot was the little parlor behind his office in the motel. Let's go down there. This young man, you had to feel sorry for him. After all, being dominated by an almost maniacal woman was enough to drive anyone to the extreme of well, let's go in. Well, I suppose you'd call this his hideaway. His hobby, as you see, was taxidermy. Crow here, an owl there. Now, an important scene took place in this room. There was a private supper here. And, oh, by the way, this picture has great significance because let's go along to cabin number 1. I want to show you something there. All tidied up. The bathroom. Well, they've cleaned all this up now. Big difference. You should have seen the blood. The whole place was, well, it's too horrible to describe. Dreadful. And I'll tell you, there's a very important clue was found here. Down there. Well, the murderer, you see, crept in here. Very slowly, of course, the shower was on, there was no sound. And